the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. So I also asked him what's difficult. And he said, can you go all the way? Can you be consistent 2 hours every day for the next 10 years, except weekends? I would urge everyone who wants to proceed and go and find their passion and do something to do it. Because you only live once. You don't live twice. I asked him, have you sent the offer to the customer? And he said, Michael, it's too early. And I said, Marios, it's never too early, but it's always too late.
I'm Farah Shammas. Welcome to Hotel Talk. We hope you enjoy listening to this friendly conversation between people connected by real life in hotels. Hi, everyone. I am very, very, very excited to have with us today Michael Virardi. Many of you guys might know him from TikTok or Instagram or just in Cyprus and so many countries abroad. He is the founder of MRV Simple Techniques, and he is an expert in helping companies in Cyprus and abroad build company culture. He's a coach, a mentor, a speaker, and most importantly, a dear friend.
Lovely to be here, Farah. Thank you very much for this excellent introduction.
I can't wait because I genuinely feel that this is going to be one of my best podcasts to date because you have so much, not just wisdom and experience, but just depth and honesty, and you're nothing if not authentic. So I can't wait to have this discussion.
Thank you very much. And since you said wisdom, I will tell you my favorite one, the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. So I will do my best not to put it in a fruit salad.
Well, it's okay. We can be original. I love cooking. We can make it work.
I know you do.
So I want to start actually, first of all, for those who maybe don't know you, but even people who do know you, tell us a bit about you, but properly about you, not just what you do, but who you are, how you grew up, where you grew up, and how you ended up in this field and doing what you do.
I'm a father of three, 2 boys and 1 girl, Hector, Marianda, and Orlando. And married to Christine, who you know very well.
Mm-hmm.
And
She's lovely.
Thank you very much. Since I was a kid, I used to love sports. I used to play basketball for Apollon basketball team and for the national team of Cyprus. And I used to work for the family business, which deals with catering equipment and tabletop supplies, as you know, because you're one of our customers here.
And it's so well known in Cyprus. I mean, it really is. It was one of the first and definitely one of the most highly regarded. So all the hotels, restaurants, catering companies know your company, know your family's company, knew your dad. We're a small island and we were definitely smaller some 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So your father was a very big personality within our industry.
I'm happy that you met him.
Oh, he was, what a wonderful man, really.
He started it back in 1971. And up until today, some of your brand new projects that you've done here at the hotel are equipped by Virardi. And thank you for your support. It means a lot. And I worked for the family business for 15 years. And then during one of my trips abroad, I met an American, a sales consultant by the name of Jeffrey Gitomer. I was so impressed by what he said and by his stage presence. I was mesmerized and I said, I want to become like him, exactly like him. I know I said this story 100 times, but that's my story.
We want to hear it, yeah.
So I walked up to Mr. Gitomer and I said, Mr. Gitomer, how can I become like you, sir? He said, it's easy and it's difficult. And as a Cypriot, I asked, what's easy? So he said, study 2 hours on your chosen topic every day for 2 hours except weekends. In 5 years, you will be recognized in your country. In 10 years, worldwide.
Wow. So he had this concrete timeline.
Yes, the 10,000 hour rule, which was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell. It wasn't Malcolm Gladwell's, but it was popularized in one of his books. So this 10,000 hour rule, I've seen it working. And in my case, because Cyprus was a very small island, at the time, social media were not there.
Well, it just, I mean, it wasn't anywhere, let alone in Cyprus.
So you were lucky if you were born in New York or in London, and it really made a difference. Whereas we were trying to get the word out through our newspapers, It wasn't easy at all. There was no way to market or advertise, especially.
But on the other hand, it's easier because it's more word of mouth here. And so you just chat to someone whose mother's got a company, whose, I don't know, uncle is doing something. And
And that's how it started.
Yeah.
So I also asked him what's difficult. And he said, can you go all the way? Can you be consistent 2 hours every day for the next 10 years? Except weekends? And I said, yes, sir. And I bought his books, Customer Satisfaction is Worthless, Customer Loyalty is Priceless, and the Sales Bible, and his cassettes, not DVDs, not CDs, but cassettes, which I was listening to them in my car whilst I was going around.
Which year was that?
That was...
I'm trying to think when I last had a cassette.
Yes, 1999, 2000. 1999, 2000.
Okay.
That was 22, 23 years ago.
Yeah, because I remember sitting with you in... Oh my goodness, was it Dino's? Like having lunch, like probably in like 2002 when I just come back. And you were working with your family's company, but you were so interested in company culture, in, individual and personal development. And I think you hadn't said then at that point, like, oh, this is what I'm going to do eventually. But it was your thing. Like you loved it and you were so excited about it, and it was your passion and your purpose. And it was very obvious from then. So had you already decided at that point, like one day this is what I'll do? That's
exactly what I did. I decided subconsciously at that time. And when I speak to the younger generation, I always look at their passion, where their eyes open up.
Yeah.
And I see that enthusiasm. And you can make a guess on who will succeed or not by that enthusiasm, that passion. So maybe you saw in my eyes or in my intonation, whatever, or my drive, what I was about to experience and I didn't know at the time. But yes, you're right. I remember. I remember at the time.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember it as well.
And you were just so excited and you were reading so much and and you did
flies.
I remember as well when you did buy a gift as well at Virardi, which was the kind of the retail side of the business. And you had so many things at that time. I mean, obviously it really excited you as a project, but it was a beautiful kind of era of those presents being done. Okay, it was something different. The company doesn't do it now. We all evolve. And but I what I loved was like the little extras that were so important and still so memorable. So it's so many years on, and every time somebody bought a gift, a quote came with it.
It's true.
You
remember well. Yes, and 1% of the proceeds were going to the children with need, Academy Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah.
And yes, it was a code. I forgot about the code,
but
now
quote,
I do remember. I still have those codes.
Yeah.
Yes, we wanted to make people happier, happy and happier for those who were happy, and that was a beautiful era at the time.
Yeah. So, okay. So you decided like, this is what I'm going to do. You started studying towards it. And then how long between then, that moment, and when you actually decided to leave the family business? And how was that leaving family businesses? Because lots of people listening, especially in Cyprus, are in family businesses. They're, I won't say drawn to family businesses. Some are because they love it or because it's the easy way out. And then other people are, and we do it, and I don't criticize parents for doing that, but I think in Cyprus we see it a lot where parents think they're doing their best by compelling their children to come back, work for that family business. That's the way that worked for them. It's got to work for their children. So how did you leave your family business?
It wasn't easy at all, because together with my brother Giovanni, we were handling the business. Giovanni was handling everything inside the office, and I was handling everything outside the office. I was in sales.
Yeah, doing more the marketing
and sales, and going around all towns, the whole of Cyprus. And then one day, not out of the blue, but it started slowly being cultivated in my mind, and the seed was there. I went to my dad and I said, I would like to move out and continue with my passion, because I love what I do here, but my passion was something else, which is what I'm doing now. And I will never forget that my dad told me, you will succeed. You go ahead and do it. But if you leave, we might close down. And that kept me another 3 years. I made an agreement with my dad for another 3 years, because my heart at that time broke. I understood exactly what he meant. Not that it was a one-man show, not at all. Even if my brother left, we would have had a problem. And it took another 3 years. So
because the dynamics of the company
because one was good at doing one
thing, and you were balancing each other.
We're balancing each other.
And that balancing at that scale was going to tip without
so
one of you.
So it took another 3 years from the moment I told him. And if you ask me dates, I don't know, because I'm having such a beautiful ride that if you ask me, I will tell you it was a few years ago, but maybe it was 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So whenever people ask me, when did you form your company, MRV Simple Techniques? I don't know. Honestly, I have to go back and look at the books.
Well, I'll tease you a bit on that one, because you're also like me, a parent of 3 kids, and I have no recollection of dates, and I blame children for that.
Lack of sleep.
Exactly.
Lack of sleep. But that's the thing. And for everyone who's coming up to me as mentees, as friends for advice, and say, I want to leave the family business, I don't know why people think on this island that if you decide to leave the family business, you're committing a crime. Yes, which is not a crime. It takes guts, and people should follow their passion, even if they fail. When you lose, don't lose the lesson. You either win or you either learn. That's it. And I would urge everyone who wants to proceed and go and find their passion and do something to do it. Because you only live once. You don't live twice.
But in your case, thankfully, the company didn't fail. Giovanni is running Virardi Enterprises. It's doing really well. We're still supporting him and buying from the family. Are you involved at all in the family business? I'm
involved, yes. We're shareholders, equal shareholders. And one of the reasons, because I don't show up in podcasts, is because you support us so much. And I appreciate it, because I put an end to podcasts. But I love yours, and I love the way you come across and you make people feel comfortable, because most people in podcasts do not prepare for their guest. Yeah. And if they don't prepare for the guest, you just lose your time. Yeah. So I'm happy I made this decision today.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm like the lucky one that got
No, you're the prepared one.
The prepared one. Well, it also helps, of course, that I know you. But yes, I mean, I think like my reason behind this podcast is to have a nice conversation with whoever comes on it, but also to be genuine,
you
authentic.
Make people feel comfortable. Yeah. That's how I feel now.
It's not a sales pitch. I'm not interested in hearing, well, my company did this and blah, blah, blah. And nobody cares. We want to hear, but why are you in that industry, or why did you do this? And also really to highlight that hotels, that's why it's called Hotel Talk, is we're not discussing hotels, but we're all brought together by hotels, and that's the fun part of this industry. That
hospitality is what unites us.
Hospitality, exactly. Yes. So, okay, you left the family business. What happened then?
I left the family business. People were telling me, if I recall well, it was during the 2013 crisis. I'm not sure exactly.
So you really chose, but the difficult period.
Yes,
so you chose.
But it didn't feel like a difficult period at all. I wrote a book at the time which was titled in Greek, "I krísi θέλει κρίση," which means your mind needs to move all the time and needs to think in order to be able to adopt and adapt. I krísi θέλει κρίση, this crisis, not the other crisis. Yeah. The book became a best-selling book in Greek, translated into English, helped a lot. And I didn't feel a crisis because I managed to open up the world, not only Cyprus. Because if you're waiting for Cyprus, for your phone to ring only from Cyprus, then sooner or later you will have a problem. That's my feeling. We're a very small island.
Yeah, and we have to literally think outside the box. There's a whole world out there, literally, not just our lovely island. Yeah. And I love that your book was not full of unnecessary waffle. It was concise. It was to the point. I think that's why it appealed to so many people. It was easy to read. It is. I mean, people can buy it now. It's still relevant. And it wasn't, so many people have something to say and they think, oh, well, I can't say that and only write 100 or 150 pages, or I've got to make sure it's 350 pages to make it look like I know what I'm talking about. And this, you get books that you have 20 chapters and each chapter is repeating the same thing in a different way. But yours was concise, and I think that's what really
cut to the chase. Yeah. Concise is the way forward.
Absolutely.
Concise is the way
And you were also in bits and bobs, weren't you? I think that doesn't exist anymore.
But you remember that?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I cannot believe. I never expected someone to remember that. Yes.
But you know what I did? Because also I think...
I cannot believe that, by the way.
Oh, but no, you've done so many things I do really respect, and they have stuck with me. And I forget a lot of stuff, but...
you know how I got in there?
Yes,
for everyone who doesn't know,
tell us first of all, everyone, what is bits and bobs?
Yes,
and
this small magazine was coming out from the United States. A booklet from the United States. Yes, it was a small booklet. Handheld booklet.
That came out once a month, I think.
Once a month. And then there was the yearly edition that was...
And it was full, it was highlighting just amazing quotes.
Amazing proverbs and quotes from
like 1-2 lines.
From famous people. And one day, one of our managers at Virardi called me and he said, Michael, I asked him, have you sent the offer to the customer? And he said, Michael, it's too early. And I said, Marios, it's never too early, but it's always too late. As soon as I said that, I wrote it down.
Yeah.
I sent it to Bits and Pieces.
Bits and Pieces, was it? But it had a horse on, didn't it? With the bits.
Yes,
something,
I sent it to Bits and Pieces. And on the 6th of January 2006, somewhere there, in February 2006, an envelope arrives from Bits and Pieces, but that envelope was thicker than the normal envelope, which was
normally.
And
you had to subscribe to get it.
You had to. I was a subscriber. I was. I open it up and I see 5 magazines, 5 booklets, and it was 5 copies of the same. I said, why are they sending me 5 copies? They made a mistake. So as I was reading in, I see Mahatma Gandhi, I see Winston Churchill, and then I see Michael Virardi. And it's never true.
You see? Yes. Amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you if you only got 5, because I think you sent me one of the 5. And what impressed me, and that's what really is stuck in my head. So it's not only something that I read and I loved it. So I was like, oh, great, I get this copy, because I think my dad was subscribing, so I used to get his copies. You sent it with a card. I don't remember if it was Christmas time or whatever. And it was just with wishes. There was no cover note to say I'm in it, no cover note to say the story, no cover note to basically in some way imply I am amazing and I've got in this. It was just, I'm sending this to you. And if someone didn't read it, they would never have known. And I love it. I was like, great. I flicked through and then there you were. And I remember just sending you, we had mobiles then. So I think it was a text. Like, oh, I'm so proud. Wow, you're in this. Yeah. And then and also it's a nice way for you. You're like, oh, I know who read it and appreciates it.
That's why I told you you're very prepared, and we go back a long way together.
We go back a long
way. This will bring tears to my eyes.
Oh, bless you. But no, but I am. I'm. If I can say that in a non-condescending way, I'm so proud of everything you've done and all you've achieved. It's not just for Cyprus or for the greater good or to come out with all of this, but really what you've done is so admirable in so many ways. And you've always kept your humility around you. You've always been down to earth and you've always been approachable. And that, I think, is really the core of your success. And you learn a lot of these amazing qualities from your father, who was such an amazing man. And I do want to touch on that if you can.
I mean, if you asked me the question, I would have said exactly what you've said. That's what I learned from my father. He was authentic. And what I mean by authentic is that he would talk to the guy parking our car the exact same way he would talk to the President of the Republic of Cyprus. That's what I like about my dad. I was recently at a cocktail party. The guy who approached us, he spoke first to the hotel owner, then he spoke to the other guy, then he turned and said hi to the guys who were not in his eyes as important. So he was authentic. He would talk first to his friends, the people who he appreciated, and then move on to acknowledge.
And he always gave everybody time. That's what I remember about your dad. He was never in a rush. Nothing was too much of a hassle. If you pass by, your company, he'd be like, hi. He would like come in. He'd always ask someone to sit down. Yes. He would always have a chat. He was genuinely interested in what people had to say. It's like he knew he could learn from anyone.
I think that's part of his legacy. And he was very humble.
Yeah.
And those were the values that I've learned as well. And
he also had a great sense of humor, which I think is really important.
Yes.
And I think it's something that we don't see all the time. But I would say, just to talk specifically about Cyprus, that sometimes being a microcosm, and we have so many good things going for Cyprus and our culture and our people, but sometimes we're so afraid of what other people think. We're so afraid to laugh at ourselves or have some humor. We're so afraid to let our guard down that we don't see that. And I've seen that here. I mean, on this podcast, I've had many people ask to come on the podcast, and I won't say quite happily, but I quite confidently say no, because I know that if they're not going to be genuine, if they can't, really be themselves, or if they're just going to come on and say their achievements. It's not really what I want here.
Hopefully things are changing.
Yeah.
But yes, that's why some other nationalities called us insolent. And I was trying to look the word up and to understand what they meant. But we live on an island, and yes, we do have certain barriers, certain norms, and we're thinking about what other people think about us. As the proverb says, it's not what you think you are, but what you think you are. So we have to go into our thoughts and understand really who we are.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about company culture, because that's your strength. What you do the most is definitely what I've called you about sometimes, like, oh, I'm stuck on this. And
yes.
So you've now become an expert in your field, definitely not just in Cyprus, but abroad, all over the world. You've trained, oh my goodness, give us some companies you've trained.
The American Piano Club in New York, Google, and a lot of others.
Just fantastic. You're not just a coach, you're also a mentor. For companies and for individuals. You're obviously an amazing speaker. We were just discussing TikTok. You had one TikTok video that exploded to 4.1 million, was it? Views?
Exactly.
It was insane.
Yes.
So what interests you about company culture, and why is it so important?
First and foremost, I believe that company culture starts from the top down. Either we know it or not. If it's a family business, it starts from the family. If it's a public company, it's from the management, from the boardroom. And most of the times people do not understand or cannot comprehend what their culture is all about. But the others, the wisdom of the masses, can understand. And if you recall well, when we talk together or when I talk with other of my customers, I always tell them, I'll hear your side of the story, but I want to hear your people's side of the story. So a workshop will not solve anything if you don't talk to the people.
Yeah.
And it's true, there is a book written, The Wisdom of the Masses. The masses know in their vast majority. They do know. They have a third, fourth sense, and they can understand, or a fifth sense for this matter. And I believe that the owners, the managers, the family should lead by example. Everyone should be equal in a way that Farah Shammas will go down and cook vegan food together with her chef. She will pick up the litter from the pool, and leading by example is the best example of leading. And that's how you start slowly impacting your culture. But I repeat, you need to be in the trenches together with your people. If you're not in the trenches together with your people, when I talked to you about this podcast, you said, part of the success is also Christos, who's here monitoring everything. You didn't tell me this is my success. It's all about me. You said Christos needs to be there because he's very vital for this to be successful. So you need to pass on praise. You need to recognize your people. You need to listen to your people in order to improve the culture. And as I said again, you don't know exactly what your culture is. You think you know what your culture is. So you need a third person. It might not be Michael Virardi, but somebody else.
And it changes.
It changes,
and sometimes you think, oh, it's fine. And then 1-2 years down the line, 3 years, 5 years, you're suddenly in a completely different world, in a completely different environment, and everything's different, and you're wondering why.
Exactly. And if you ask me, give us examples of company cultures in Cyprus, I will tell you, it's the same companies being repeated, book after book after book, about Zappos, about the Ritz-Carlton, about Amazon. It's all the same companies being repeated. There is a reason for it. So we need to look at these best practices. We need to imitate those best practices. We need to invest. And I'm not talking only money.
No.
First and foremost, time and energy. And companies can improve, organizations can improve their culture. That's it. And I'm an ardent supporter of that. I believe so much in that.
And it's so important because I think, especially after COVID, there's been so much talk about work-life balance, but people have started to realize, like, well, actually, it's not just, there's two separate things here. It's not work and home. Everything's integrated now, not just with the hybrid, but it's also about your whole persona, your whole being every day. You can't just say, well, 1 minute ago I was a manager here and now I'm, a daddy or mummy or friend at home. No, it's all part of your day. You talk all. So you've got to be happy in every aspect.
Yes, and I would say it's not work-life balance. It's work-life fit.
Yeah.
Because it can never balance, but it can fit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we're one person. I have so many questions to ask you. Okay, let's talk about you being a daddy of 3 lovely children that you mentioned earlier. You don't do anything if you don't learn from it. So now you've been a father for nearly 10 years. 10 years now, actually,
Yes.
isn't it? Yeah. And you've got 2 lovely twins. So you were a daddy of one and you could concentrate on your oldest son. And then you suddenly had these beautiful twins that came in the mix. What has being a father taught you?
I can talk for hours, but let me limit it so we will be succinct like bits and pieces. It taught me to be less selfish. Let me give you an analogy. In most of my seminars, I ask people if I can take a photo. So they all say yes. So we take a group photo. So when I come back from the break, I give them my mobile, I give it out, and I said, have a look at the photo. So when the mobile comes back, I said, with a show of hands and with all honesty, have you looked at your face first? Or if you haven't found your face in there, have you searched for your face first? And 99% of the times, 99% of the people raise their hands. So we are looking at ourselves first. We are more selfish. We want to see if we look good. Many times you say to your husband, or your husband says to you, delete this photo. I don't look good. It's not delete this photo. You don't look good. It's I don't look good. So it taught me to be less selfish. There are other people in the frame as well, together with you, and you start looking at your kids. And if you apply this analogy into the business world, there are other people in the frame in this hotel. So you need to look at other people's faces, in inverted commas, and you need to empathize, understand, look at their work-life fit, see what motivates them, what drives them, and that's how you build also a great culture. That's how you're more democratic, and that's how, at the end of the day, you progress as a daddy, as a father, as a spouse, as a husband or a wife. So what it taught me is to be a bit less selfish.
Yeah. It's such a different dynamic because I think, I mean, as you said, humans, we're fundamentally selfish people. It's how we survive. It's normal. It's instincts. But when you become a parent, that whole shift and dynamic changes. Your whole world changes. So you go from being the selfish one, the egocentrical one. You are the child. You're the one that your whole life has always been your parents caring about you, maybe your siblings caring about you. And then suddenly you have to care about someone else. There is someone who's more important than you. And that shift for a lot of people is quite difficult to adjust to. I think we were maybe it was a bit easier for us because we were a bit older. So I think, people, especially I've seen like kids who became parents at 20 and they just were like, whoa. But it's definitely an interesting journey, that's for sure. My goodness. So tell us a bit about mentoring and self-development. Okay, you've said what drew you to that, but how important is that for everyone in whatever field they're in, even if they don't work and they're, parents who stay home or whatever? How important is it to give yourself time for self-development?
Very important, especially after this pandemic. There is a technological boom, and this technological boom is driving things very fast. In the old days, in my father's days, I remember they used to go to exhibitions abroad, get samples. By the time they came back, they would write a letter to the company to order, or at least get prices. It would take 6 months for the first order to go through. Maybe end of the year you would get the first.
Yeah.
So now, if you're not moving fast, if you're not learning, I think you're moonwalking like Michael Jackson. You're going backwards, because in the old days you could stay still, not improve your skills, let's say for 1 year or 2 years, and still people were trying to catch up. But now you're moonwalking, you're going backwards. And according to the World Economic Forum, 95% of people need to be reskilled by 2025. So if 95% of the people need to be reskilled, Christos, yourself, and myself, we need to be reskilled by 2025, which is just around the corner.
2 years away,
So it's very important. Personal development, reading books is very important.
Yeah.
And especially for leadership. Not every leader is a leader, but every leader is a leader at the end of the day.
Yeah,
so it's important.
And you write a beautiful newsletter. I love it. It's always so much fun. And that's something I tell people as well. Like, try and, subscribe, read blogs or articles. It's so easy to find something that you like and just subscribe to it and get an email once a day for something, for different things, and just have that time, carve out that time to keep learning. Listen to podcasts in your car. We don't realize like how much we're actually in our car, even in Cyprus, which is a small place. You can get through like so much, an audiobook or whatever it is, and really invest in self-development.
It's university on wheels. It's university on wheels. And instead of killing time listening to what's bad in the world, listening to the news, you can self-develop. And somebody can, if you put this on audio, can listen to this conversation. There are many other people like Seth Godin, which I enjoy listening to his podcast a lot. And it's true. It's what we
I'll
should
make
do.
you laugh now, because this is one of my mantras. And when I get asked to give talks, and for some reason people they always ask me to talk about work-life balance, which is very flattering, and I'm so happy that I'm perceived as someone who's
with 3 kids,
achieving that. Yes, although my husband always laughs, and it is true, like, this emphasis always goes on women, and then sometimes it's like, but the men are also trying to get this work-life balance. And but one of my things is my 60 seconds kind of rule, and I'm going to make you laugh, because I think you said, so, which I then took it into a different context, but way back when, and I don't even know if you were fully doing this, but maybe just giving a seminar to someone, and someone told me about it because I wasn't there, that when we answer phones or receptionists or anyone, and we say, just a minute, Rena Leptagi, what are we actually asking people to do?
To wait for 60 seconds.
To wait for 60 seconds. And if you close your eyes, and I think
I did it with blindfolded, yes.
This is like a long time ago. I don't know if you still do this.
Farah, I would always come to you to find about my past, because I forgot all this. It's true.
And people sat there blindfolded for 60 seconds. They went, wow, that was a long time. It's like, well, that's what you're asking people to do. So subconsciously, people are thinking, well, I've called the hotel or I've called this company, and I'm being asked to wait a whole minute while you go and sort out my problem, like find the solution. So actually, the best thing is,
I'll connect you right
just
away.
a sec, or be with you as soon as I can, or say something more positive. That little snippet that, entered my life through default, through a mutual friend so many years ago, I now use that to advise people and my kids and my friends. And, if I can say, like, mentees or people who listen to my talks, and I say, okay, guys, the day is full of 24 hours of so many, 60 minutes in every hour. And this is what a minute is. So I just want you to be quiet. And I do this at dinner parties with friends. I'm like, I'm not going to talk to you for a minute. You just be quiet and just sit there. And they're looking around, and I'm timing. And then you can see them getting nervous and anxious. They're like, well, come on. And I'm like, no. And after a minute, I say, right, okay, we can chat now. They're like, oh, that felt like ages. And I'm like, well, think of how many moments of those you've got in every day. So when you say, I didn't have time to sit with my kid, or I didn't have time to exercise, or I didn't have time to read, or I didn't have time to listen to a podcast, or to send that money to charity that I promised, or whatever it is, you had so many minutes.
It's true.
So if you calm down and you say, okay, 1 minute, literally 1 minute, I'll get in my car in 1 minute, but I'll answer that email. You've achieved something else. Or 1 minute, I'll check my kid's lunchbox. That's 1 minute. And you've got all of these times.
Now I know why you do give speeches, because you're so inspiring.
Well, no, but you were the catalyst in that. And that's why, so really, I want to say thank you, because sometimes you might say something that happened so many years ago and think, well, did that affect anyone's life? But
now you
look
brought
at what
memories
it's done.
back.
So tell us a bit about hospitality. How do you define hospitality?
It's your home, away from home. I believe at the end of the day, going the extra mile, what differentiates an ordinary person from an extraordinary person is that little extra. Going the extra mile is all about hospitality. And I also believe that if you have long-term thinking rather than short-term thinking, you can be more hospitable. For example, if you think that I am in charge of this conversation together with this guest, so you will not do this because this is company or hotel policy, you're thinking short-term. You're not thinking long-term. So it's good to think long-term, and that's why we call them guests rather than customers. So we need to treat them in a way.
We'll see them again, like friends.
Yes, we will see them again. And sometimes people think very short-term. I'll give you an example.
The taxi drivers, that's what I think of.
And the taxi drivers, but I'll give you another example. I changed hotels in Athens for the first time. From the Athens Plaza, I went to Oniro. As soon as I arrived there, I had a speech the next day with KPMG. I looked at both of my shirts. They were ironed when I left home, and they were not when I arrived in Athens. And I asked the girl there, Katerina, and I still remember her name, and I said, Katerina, can we do something? At the Athens Plaza, they will tell you it's 10 euros, you have to hang it up, you have to do this. Immediately, she said, don't worry, Mr. Virardi, I will have it sorted. I went for a walk, came back, both shirts were ironed. She came directly into my room. She asked for permission. She did it. I stayed again at Oniro just a few days ago when I went there.
Yeah.
It's all down to one person.
One person, yeah.
And she said, we're not allowed to do that. But I said, this gentleman was polite. He came to us for the first time. What do I need to do to keep him coming back? Stop thinking policy, start thinking philosophy. Policy is there to make life difficult for the guest and easy for the hotel staff. Philosophy is looking for a win-win situation.
I love that. And that's so true. I mean, you said about short term, I was thinking of taxi drivers overcharging people and not thinking we want them to come back. And another example I stayed in a hotel in London. It took me about 10 years to go back to the hotel just because a cleaner threw my vitamins away. One person, one time. In hindsight, it wasn't her fault. They were, on the side. But it irritated me so much. I'd planned everything. And that is so important. So individuals really can make the difference in everything, not just in the hotels. So I was going to actually ask you what things that have struck you about hotels, but you've just answered that.
If you want, I'll give you one example.
And give us another one.
It's the Four Seasons at Sharm el-Sheikh. And I remember in all the hotels that I've been, if the elevator is not working, it says the elevator is not working. There's a sign. This elevator is not working.
Yeah, out of order.
When I was at the Four Seasons, and I have the banner, I can show it to you. I brought it with me, asked for permission to get it. It said, Mohammed, who was the chief engineer of the hotel, is asking for your patience because the funicular, it was going up and down like a small train, is not working. And you could see Mohammed's face. It was like,
they printed it.
They printed it, and Mohammed is asking for your patience. So I can send a photo to you as soon as I go back to my office.
I love these things.
So
Please
from
do.
that day on, when I trained the Elysium, when I went to Hileas at Costa Navarino, I always showed them this difference. Can you make it more personal? Can you show, instead of it's a one-way street or an X not working, don't push it, don't push the button, was Mohammed is asking for your patience. So that was what struck me. Easy things to do. Yeah. It just needs...
And
personalized, caring, hospitality. We talked about feeling at home. That's what
I always tell my staff as well. I say, we all want TripAdvisor reviews, Google reviews, Facebook reviews, but no one's going to bother if it's just for an organization. But if a waitress goes to someone and says, oh, did you enjoy your breakfast? If you can write on TripAdvisor and mention my name, my name's Petra, it will really help me in my thing. And the person, I said, you can be damn sure that person's going to go home and write a review and say, Petra made my breakfast just the way I like it.
Like Katerina. And I even send customers at Oniro. My friend Sabas is going today. So I send him there. This is it. This is what hospitality is all about for me. Yeah.
So I'm going to get more into you and your background. I mean, you obviously have this pull towards culture in general, company culture, people's philosophy, well-being, mental well-being. What is it in your life? And okay, we've spoken about your father, but let's go back even more to your childhood, earliest memories. And we don't talk about your mom as well, but I mean, what made you so intrigued with this? What was the turning point that made you, even as a young child, realize this is so important? Individuals are so important. Feelings are so important. What do you think it was?
I believe I believe that it was the values instilled by my father. It was the golden rule or the platinum rule. The golden rule says treat others as you would like to be treated. The platinum rule says treat others better than you would like to be treated. I saw this in action at Virardi, but also it was my father's decisions that I believe it was difficult for him at the time that he took, that really helped me a lot at the time I was crying like crazy. I'll give you one example about promptness. We were about to go to Ladies' Mile together with our friends. We used to go every Sunday. And my father said, be down at 7:45 in the morning. I arrived down at 8. There was no one there. He said, walk to your grandmother's and stay all day there until 6 o'clock when we come back. It happened twice. From that day on, I understood that if you want to be on time, plan to be early. I understood that 7:45 means 7:30. And that was one of the biggest gifts my father has given me, because when I asked, for example, Bayer Crop Science many years ago, why did you hire me? They said, the other two guys, the Greek guy and the American guy, were much more well-known than you, because at the time I was starting, but you were prompt. I am the new CEO, Apostolos Klonzaris. I don't know anyone now because I came all the way from Germany, and I wanted somebody who's prompt and reliable. So by being prompt and by sending my proposal in on time, being reliable, he thought that this guy can pull it off. He's swift, he's fast, he's prompt, everything. So those were the values that my father instilled in my brother and myself, and my mother, of course. Both of them. So those values, there are many more.
Wow, that's quite a strong lesson. I don't know if I could do that to my children.
I cannot do that to my children, and I'm finding it very hard. But also, I'm encountering...
It was different times, though.
I'm encountering the same problem sometimes. Thank God Rolando is very conscientious, but there are other things that I know that if you need to act, you need to act, and I don't act. Because being too soft, it doesn't work most of the times.
But what was it that... okay, so obviously, you had the pull that your dad was saying, let's treat people even better. So was it that then, it just stayed in you? Was there something else as a teenager that, you realized?
He truly was in love with his job. It wasn't a job. It was a calling. He loved traveling. Like now, if you ask me...
And he loved people. I mean, everyone. If you talk to the older generation here who knew your dad as well, that were super young. I mean, my staff that have been with us for 35 years, they all remember your dad, and they're all like, what a fantastic businessman and person he was.
He loved his calling. Thank you very much for this. And it's true. And if you ask me, what do you love about what you do, is traveling, meeting people. I'm not looking at it as a keynote or as a workshop or as an intervention, as a program. I'm looking at it as a calling.
Yeah.
And
well, definitely, money is not your driver. That's
money is not my driver. Money is an outcome of what you do, and if you do it well, it will come. But it's not the driver.
So, what's the most interesting thing that you've found out about company culture? I mean, is there something that all companies have in common? Is there something that they very regularly fail at collectively? Let's say if you look at a broad range, because you've been asked to speak to so many different companies around the globe, completely different products or services. What is a common denominator that makes them fail or succeed?
Maybe what I'm going to tell you is an oxymoron, because what's common is what is not common. It's that each and every company is different. Each and every culture, like character in people, is completely different.
An individual to each company.
I remember someone asked me something, and it came out as a proverb. And he said, what are the similarities between the Swedes or the Dutch? And I said, look, the company culture can determine how things are done more than the country culture. It's so strong inside the company that can even outweigh the country of the country.
Yeah, the culture.
So there is no similarity. I believe that it's all completely different. And this is the beauty of things, because God...
And that has so much hope.
Didn't make
I love
7 billion people exactly the same, not even twins.
8 billion now, I think.
8 billion now. And it's not there is no person exactly the same. So that's the beauty of it. And if you ask me, how can they improve,
where do a lot of them fail? Is it like taking things for granted? Is it not moving with the times? Is it not treating employees as team members, but literally as employees? Or
everything that you've said, they fail because they get stuck in a comfort zone, the status quo. This is how we did it, and we continue doing it. They fail because they call them employees instead of associates. Employee, associate, working next to...
team members.
As a team member, equal. And most people don't have the stamina, the courage, the monetary, the funds, or the willingness. The funds come last, by the way. The willingness to make that change. So you have to do an audit. Like you do an audit for your books every year, you have to do an audit for your culture. If not every year, every few years, just to understand. Because what you have in mind, Farah, even if you ask me or if I ask you, you say me, this is a culture at St. Raphael Hotel, and you will not bend a lot. You say, we're good. Yes, we need to improve, and we might leave it up to there. But what do we need to improve? Are we really making strides in improving that little thing? But it's the little extra.
And because it's changing, new people come in all the time. That can make a huge shift to the dynamics of the workforce.
That's
and the
why
team.
You should have an induction course, and which is taught by people who are 35 years at this hotel or who have retired, and you bring them in to teach the induction course. And it's vital for that 1 hour, because the first 2 days, people are leaning forward in their chairs. The next 2 years, people are leaning back in their chairs. So you need, each and every company that wants to have a great or a unique culture should have an induction course. Being taught by the people who love this hotel the most, even if it's called Shammas, or even if it's called you and they've been working for 35 years, or if they retired and you pay them to come in for that induction course to talk about those values, why they remain loyal so many years and they retired in this hotel. That's the first turn. Not Michael Virardi, the guy who retired 3 years ago and was working for 35 years in this hotel.
Amazing.
Get that person in.
And we have plenty of those.
I know
here,
you do. I know you do.
It's amazing.
Because I frequent your restaurants and I love them very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I'll say now I'll get more into Cyprus. So how can companies in Cyprus improve? And I'll say more specifically service, because we're not so great on service here. I say that like flicking my fingers.
Farah, it's best practices. We have to look at best practices.
I mean it in shops as well. I'm not just talking about hotels.
No. Best practices all over.
All over. I mean, I laugh. I literally, they're my dinner party like jokes. Oh, today I went to this shop and I wanted to buy something and I ended up. Actually, I don't mind saying. I'll give an example. I went into Apple here in Limassol. So we don't have an Apple store, but we've got a premium iStore, whatever it's called. I walked in. I had my youngest with me and I waited and there were two people there. One was serving or arranging at the till for one client. The other one looked like they were just doing admin work. And I waited. After 5 minutes, I was still waiting. The guy didn't look up. No one acknowledged me. Someone else came in, also very well dressed, waited, ended up leaving. Another couple came in, dripping with diamonds and whatever. Obviously wanted to buy something, left. Eventually I said, sorry, can you help me? They were like, yes, I'll be within a minute. In the meantime, this guy's scanning boxes. It didn't look like, to me at least, something that needed to be.
You were the priority, not the boxes.
Finally, I just left. And as I'm walking out of the shop, I see the guy walking towards the window. And I thought, he's coming to, apologize and try and get me back in. And I looked, I put my hands up. I'm like, well, I couldn't wait anymore. I mean, I'd even done an email and answered a phone call while I'd been in there. And the guy wasn't coming towards me to apologize. He just went, shrugged his shoulders, and he was actually walking to go up the stairs and continue doing his thing. And I was like, my goodness, what shame. And that's Apple, which, I think internationally they'd be so embarrassed with that. Why do we have that, and how can we improve?
From your amazing example, we can recap what we've said. First of all, Apple has a rule. The rule is you are acknowledged within 10 meters or 10 seconds of walking into a store. Even during busy Christmas times where they change their shirt into red so they can be seen because there's hundreds of people going in, they stand in a line, so they acknowledge you within 10 seconds or 10 meters. So you walk in and they acknowledge you like this. Yeah. So being acknowledged will buy you time. I remember when I was working at Virardi, when somebody was waiting, let's say outside the accounting office, I would talk to them, because if you talk to people 5 minutes, seem like 1 minute. If you're talking to them, if you're asking them if they want something to drink,
how was their day? Look at the weather.
Yes. So somebody
Did you find parking?
Should approach you. So this is exactly where companies need to place their values first, not policies, but philosophies first. When I was working, I remember at our family business, Virardi, we brought in, still remember, Ioanna Tilemachu, the girl we brought in to answer the phone within 3 rings. Personally, I didn't want the phone to ring more than 3 times, because if someone is upset and the phone is ringing, then he will get more upset or she will get more upset. And the owners should lead by example if I go back. So I used to answer 10 to 20 calls per day when I was in the office. Rarely I was in the office, but when I was there. So Virardi Enterprises, this is Michael speaking. How may I help you? Which Michael? Michael Virardi. But you're answering the phones? I said, yes. Yeah. But the owner, he's the owner. Why not? This is the only way I can see when I connect different departments, how they answer and how long it takes. So yes, Farah Shammas should answer the phones here at St. Raphael as well. That's the only way you will teach by example. You will learn about what's happening in your departments. And if you do that, the company culture
answer correctly, changes. Your name, because the next question someone will ask is who's speaking.
Farah, you're spot on. I remember at our technical department, the guy said, no, I'm not going to say my name because it's too fake. And I said, okay, what will you say? I said, hello. Okay, somebody rings, Virardi Enterprises. This is Michael Virardi speaking. How may I help you? Can you please connect me with the technical department? Of course. Ring, ring, ring. Yes, who is speaking, please? Technical department. Who is speaking? Theodosius. Yeah, you're going to say it. Yeah. So say it from the beginning. Because if you don't, people think this is a small room with a few spare parts. But if you say Virardi technical department. This is Theodosi speaking. How may I help you? They envision a huge room with spare parts all lined
and you've
up.
also solved their problem. The first 3 problems they're going to have, you've solved them already.
Because they already answered
So
them.
immediately you get in the mindset of, oh, this guy can help me. And then this is my actual problem.
And hospitality starts with a rapport.
Yeah.
And rapport starts with knowing the other person's name. So never, I used to tell our people at Virardi, our associates, not our employees, associates, if you don't know the person's name, your chances of closing the deal go down the drain. So what is the person's name? Farah. Do you know her surname? Shammas. Okay, if you know the name and the surname, you started well. So rapport starts with knowing the other person's name instead of saying, look, my dear, or look here, Mrs. Shammas, or Farah, if she allows you to talk in the first person. So very important.
Absolutely. So my final question before the team question is, what makes a great leader? Drum roll.
Okay, many things.
Yeah.
First of all, a great leader should lead by example and follow all the things we've said. The best example of leading is leading by example. Secondly, a great leader should be someone who has great listening skills. Listen to the people inside your organization to find out. Listen intently, listen empathically and emphatically, and try to understand and watch your body language, because if you disagree and you start going, no, they will shut, you will kill the messenger. You will shoot the messenger, it will stop. But also listen outside the office, through your network, to understand how those factors influencing the business and bring those ideas in. So as a leader, as Farah Shammas, you should be listening to the parties you go. You should be listening to your friends who are successful or not so successful, and try to understand those ideas. What can we get from that company and implement inside our company? So we stop saying 1 minute, please. So we stop saying, no, it cannot be done. So we move from a policy to a philosophy stance. How? Listen. A great leader listens. And a great leader treats everyone equally and understands that you should be what you said earlier about my father, humble, authentic, and fully transparent. And knowledgeable, of course, Farah.
So nice. So yeah, exactly. And authentic. That's, I think, the best part of this. So here's our crystal bowl.
Here you go, Farah.
There you go. Thank you very much. So I don't know.
This is a question from your...
This is a question from our team.
This is involvement. I like this.
Yes, everybody's involved in this podcast one way or another. Obviously, I've got Christos, our IT manager, who's here with me all the time and does the editing, but everyone's involved. They all know about it. We encourage everybody to listen to it. And they all get to write a question. They don't know who's going to pick their question. I think we've covered this a lot. So this is, Fabrizio. He's no longer in our team, but he was a valued member for some time, and we wish him all the best. He asked, "What drives you?" So I'm gonna have to edit this now because we've said a lot, but it was something that maybe you haven't said.
Yes.
What's your motivator?
What drives me? Genuine people who truly want to learn, to grow. It also drives me to see people who are finding it difficult and they are reaching out. And I will give you an example. If I'm running a course, a workshop, or a mentoring session, my mobile is in silent. I will never answer it. I remember there was one gentleman who used to work at the polyclinic. He lost his job and he wanted to work somewhere because he couldn't provide for his family. And I was in Switzerland at the University of Lausanne, and the phone rang. And I answered it. I asked the students to excuse me. It was that guy, because he couldn't provide for his family. And I managed to help him get a job here at the Amathus Hotel. And I was so happy. He came and he brought shushuk or whatever for us to eat.
Oh.
And the only reason I answered the phone wasn't because he was a 100,000 euro customer. I answered the phone because I didn't want him to lose hope. So people who truly care to provide for their families, who want to do the best, who reach out, kids, even people from Nigeria that see me now on TikTok and they are writing every evening, I answer each one of them. And they say, let's go into a partnership. But I won't go into a partnership, but I will send them my book as a present, which I won't send to someone from Cyprus who they can buy. I send them all a present. If I can give them hope, this drives me. And this is part of my mission, to help people grow, and they can repay it back by helping someone else. And
on an individual
on an
level,
individual
so not
level,
just
yeah.
companies.
No,
or,
I wasn't talking about
Yeah,
companies. As you
yeah.
said at the beginning, we shouldn't be coming here saying we're the best and doing this, because you're never the best. There's always
someone better.
else
That's
who's
what we were
better.
saying
Yeah.
earlier about perfection. Yeah.
Yes.
There's always going to be something more perfect
Yes,
or more.
yes.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure, Farah. Thank
you just keep being you.
Yes, likewise. And you were so prepared. You took me back in time. And as soon as we finish, I will tell you a few more stories.
Actually, we should keep the recording on now. That's when the good stuff always happens after the podcast.
True.
Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Christos. Thanks a lot.